So you want to own a cruise ship. You picture a floating hotel gliding across a bright blue sea. Thousands of guests paying good money for the vacation of a lifetime. It looks like one of the most glamorous businesses on earth. Sun on the deck, music in the air, and money rolling in. Surely a ship packed with paying guests must simply print money. But here is the secret that every cruise executive already knows. The ticket you sell barely makes the company any real money. On many cruises, the fare only just covers the cost of the trip. Sometimes the cheapest cabins are sold at almost no profit at all. So how do cruise lines become some of the most profitable travel companies? The answer is that you are not really selling a cruise at all. You are selling a captive customer trapped on a ship for a week. Tonight we break down what a cruise ship actually sells behind the fare. The ship is dazzling, but the real question is far simpler. Where does the money come from, and where does it quietly disappear? So tonight we do one thing above all else. We follow the money. We trace every dollar from the first one spent to the last one kept. And by the end, you will see the machine hiding behind the portholes. Let's start with what almost nobody understands about a cruise ship. A cruise ship looks like a business that sells ocean vacations. It is actually a floating shopping mall that you cannot leave. The fare only exists to get a paying guest onto the vessel. Once you are aboard, the real selling begins in earnest every hour. Every bar, shop, casino, and spa is designed to open your wallet. And you cannot walk away, because you are floating in the open sea. The single most important number is not how many tickets are sold. It is how much each guest spends on board after they step aboard. The industry even has a name for this, called onboard revenue. For many lines, it is the difference between a profit and a loss. A passenger who only pays the fare is barely worth having at all. A passenger who drinks, gambles, and shops is where the profit lives. Now hold that idea, because it explains everything that follows tonight. Before any of that, you have to survive building the ship at all. And a modern cruise ship is one of the most expensive objects ever built. A single large cruise ship can cost well over $1 billion. The very largest ones approach $2 billion to design and build. They are among the most complex machines humans have ever assembled. A single ship holds more steel than a tall city skyscraper. It is a floating engineering marvel, and it costs like one too. A big modern ship can carry over 5,000 guests at once. Add nearly 2,000 crew members to serve them day and night. That is a floating town of 7,000 people out on the water. It needs restaurants, theaters, pools, casinos, and thousands of cabins. It needs engines powerful enough to move a small city across an ocean. The shipyards that can build them are only found in a few countries. Most are constructed in Italy, France, Germany, or Finland. An order placed today may not be delivered for several years, so before a single ticket is sold, billions are already at stake. This is why only a few giant companies dominate the entire industry. The barrier to entry is one of the steepest in all of business. Now the ship is built, and the real machine starts to run. Here is how a cruise ship actually makes money, layer by layer. The first layer is the ticket, the fare that everyone focuses on. This is the price you pay for your cabin and your basic meals. It is the number splashed across every advertisement and travel site. It is the one price that guests actually compare before they book. And here is the surprising truth about that headline fare. For the whole industry, ticket sales are only about half of revenue. On the cheapest fares, the company makes almost nothing at all. They will sell a bargain cabin just to get a body aboard. Because an empty cabin earns nothing on the shops and bars below. A discounted guest who spends freely on board is far better than an empty room. So the fare is not the product, it is bait for the real store. The second layer is where the cruise line truly comes alive. It is the ocean of onboard spending, the heart of the whole model. The moment you step aboard, your wallet is gently pried open. Your room key doubles as a credit card for the entire ship. There is no cash aboard, just a quiet tap that adds to your bill. That clever design makes spending feel painless and almost invisible. By the end of the week, the final bill can be a genuine shock. Almost nothing on that ship is actually included in your fare. The second you want a cocktail, the register starts ringing. A soda, a coffee, a bottle of water, each carries its own charge. Alcohol alone is one of the largest onboard moneymakers of all. A single cruise passenger can run up a large bar tab in a week, and you cannot bring your own. because outside drinks are banned aboard. The ship even sells a drink package for one flat daily price. It feels like a bargain, but it quietly nudges guests to drink more. You are a captive market, and the only bar in town is theirs. The third layer is the casino, glowing in the heart of the ship. Out on the open sea, the casino answers to almost no one. It can run around the clock with rules the cruise line sets itself. On land, casinos face heavy regulation and steep local taxes. At sea, in international waters, most of those rules simply fall away. Thousands of bored guests wander past those slot machines every night. With nowhere else to go, the temptation is impossible to escape. The casino is a floating money machine inside a floating hotel. The fourth layer is the shore excursion sold at every single port. When the ship docks, the cruise line sells you the day itself. Guided tours, beach trips, and adventures all booked through the company. The cruise line takes a healthy cut of every excursion it sells. They even own private islands where the whole beach day is theirs. On those islands, every drink and lounge chair is sold by the company. The guest never truly leaves the store, even on a tropical shore. And beyond the tours, the ship sells photos, spa days, and specialty dining. Every corner of the vessel is quietly built to earn another dollar. Before we go deeper, here is a question worth sitting with. When you buy a cruise, what is the company really selling you? The voyage across the sea, or a week where you cannot stop spending? Tell me your honest answer in the comments as we continue. Now here is the counterintuitive part that surprises almost everyone. The cruise line does not really want to profit from the ticket. It wants to fill every single cabin, even at a rock-bottom price. Because a full ship means a full casino, bar, and shop. An empty cabin spends nothing at the bar or the roulette table, so the fare is pushed as low as it takes to fill the ship. The real profit is harvested once the guests are safely aboard. This flips the whole travel business completely upside down. The voyage is just the trap, and the spending is the true product. This is why cruise deals can look almost impossibly cheap online. The low price is not generosity, it is a carefully baited hook. They lose a little on the fare to win big on the onboard tab. The average guest spends heavily beyond the ticket over a single week. That onboard spending is where the thin margins turn into real profit. Now let's look at the two secrets that make the numbers even better. The first secret is the flag flying on the back of the ship. Look closely and you will rarely see an American flag there. Most cruise ships are registered in places like Panama or the Bahamas. This practice is politely called flying a flag of convenience. It is one of the oldest tricks in the whole shipping world. The flag decides which nation's laws and taxes rule the vessel. The ship may be owned by a company based in the United States, but on paper it belongs to a small nation far away. This choice quietly saves the company an enormous amount of money. It means the ship follows the tax rules of that tiny country. Major cruise lines end up paying very little in corporate income tax. They earn billions at sea while paying a tiny fraction in tax. A giant company can post huge profits, yet owe almost nothing at home. This single legal trick saves the industry billions every year. The second secret is the international crew working below the decks. The staff often come from dozens of different countries around the world. Because the ship flies a foreign flag, foreign labor rules apply. That means wages and hours unlike anything allowed on dry land. Crew members may work long months at sea with very few days off. Many are paid wages that would be impossible in their guests' home countries. They live in tight cabins deep below the guest decks. They work nearly every day of a contract that runs for months. The smiling service you enjoy rests on a very lean labor machine below. Together, the foreign flag and foreign crew keep the costs remarkably low. Now let's turn the machine around and look at the other side. Here is what it costs to keep that floating city running each day. The single largest cost is the fuel that moves the giant ship. A large cruise ship can burn huge amounts of fuel every single day. Moving a floating town across an ocean drinks fuel by the ton. The bigger the ship, the more it feeds and the more it burns. Every extra deck of fun adds more weight to haul across the sea. Then comes the food to feed 7,000 mouths 3 times a day. The kitchens run almost around the clock to keep the guests fed. Tons of food are loaded aboard before the ship even leaves port. Whatever spoils or goes uneaten is simply money thrown overboard. Then there is the payroll for that huge international crew. Even at low wages, thousands of workers add up to a real cost. Then come the enormous costs of keeping the ship itself maintained. Salt water is brutal, and the vessel needs constant repair and paint. Every few years, the ship must go into dry dock for a refit. That refit can cost tens of millions and take the ship out of service. Then add insurance, port fees, and the marketing to fill every cabin. Every time the ship docks, the port charges a heavy fee to stay. The company also pays fees for every guest who steps onto land. Add it together, and a cruise ship burns cash at a staggering rate. The ship costs a fortune to run whether it is full or empty. An idle ship with empty cabins is a financial disaster every day. This is why the cabins must be filled at almost any price. Now let's look at how a cruise line can quietly sink. The first killer is any event that scares people away from cruising. A single disaster or outbreak can empty every booking overnight. The whole industry learned this in the most brutal way possible. When the world shut down, the entire cruise fleet was frozen in place. Ships sat empty for many months while still costing millions to keep. The companies burned through cash at a terrifying speed with no guests. They survived only by borrowing enormous mountains of new debt. The second killer is the crushing weight of that borrowed money. These ships are built with billions in loans that must be repaid. When the guests vanish, the debt payments do not vanish with them. A company can drown in interest long before the ships sail again. The third killer is the price of fuel swinging wildly on the market. A sudden spike in fuel can quietly devour an entire season of profit. The company cannot simply stop sailing, so it must swallow the cost. A single bad year at sea can erase years of steady gains. To see how the smart money plays this game, look at Carnival. Carnival is the largest cruise company in the entire world. It owns a whole family of famous cruise brands under one roof. Its story was shaped by a businessman named Ted Arison. He founded the company back in the early 1970s. He started with a single second-hand ship and a bold new idea. His idea was to make cruising fun and affordable for ordinary families. Before him, cruising was mostly for the wealthy and the elderly. Not a stiff luxury voyage, but a floating party for the middle class. He called his early ships the fun ships to pull in the crowds. The goal was to fill every cabin with everyday paying guests. He kept fares low enough that almost any family could say yes. Then he filled those ships with bars, shows, and endless things to buy. Because Arison understood the real secret of the whole business. The magic was never in the fare, it was in the onboard spending. Fill the ship with fun seekers, and they will spend freely all week. Carnival grew into a giant by mastering that simple, powerful idea. It swallowed up rival brands and built an empire of the seas. Today, the big three companies control most of the global cruise market: Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian tower over the entire industry. Between them, they own dozens of brands and hundreds of ships. That scale lets them buy fuel and food at prices newcomers cannot match. They prove the rule on a scale worth tens of billions of dollars. The ticket is only the bait that lures the guest aboard. Now let's put real numbers on a single cruise illustratively. Imagine a large ship sailing with 4,000 paying guests aboard. Say each guest pays around $1,000 for the week-long fare. That is $4 million in ticket sales for the voyage. It sounds like a fortune until you see the costs behind it. The fuel for a single week can run into the millions alone. Feeding and serving all those guests costs millions more each voyage. By the time the ship returns, the fare has nearly all been spent. Now watch what those same guests spend once they are aboard. The average guest might spend another $700 on board. That is nearly $3 million more from bars, casinos, and tours. And that onboard money did not need a whole extra ship to earn. It rides on top of a voyage the guest already paid to join. And that onboard money carries a far richer profit margin than the fare. The fare barely covers the fuel, the food, and the crew. The real profit is squeezed from the spending once you are trapped aboard. Follow the money, and it flows from the bar, not the ticket booth. The voyage was never where the true fortune was really made. So let's walk through the 2 years that decide a cruise line's fate. In the good year, the ships sail full and the world feels safe. Every cabin is booked, and every bar and casino is packed nightly. The onboard spending flows like a river through the whole fleet. Guests book their next cruise before this one has even ended. The ships run full, spreading those huge fixed costs across many wallets. A well-run cruise line can earn billions in a strong and peaceful year. The best operators become some of the biggest travel companies alive. In the bad year, a crisis strikes and fear empties every ship. A storm, an outbreak, or a scandal can freeze bookings overnight. The bookings vanish, but the debt and the upkeep never pause. A docked ship still costs a fortune while earning almost nothing. The crew must still be paid, and the engines must still be maintained. The fixed costs do not care that the cabins are all empty. Fuel contracts, loan payments, and crew wages all arrive on schedule. A single idle ship can burn millions of dollars every single month. Multiply that across a whole fleet, and the losses become staggering. A cruise line without full ships bleeds cash with frightening speed. The same fleet, the same ocean. Two completely different outcomes. The difference was never the ships, it was the machine underneath. This is the truth that no daydream about owning a cruise line includes. A cruise ship looks like a business that sells ocean holidays. Underneath, it is a floating mall built to trap you with your wallet. The ocean view is free, but almost everything before it costs money. The fare is the loud and shiny part, but it is the least profitable. The real money hides in the bar, the casino, and the shore tours. It hides in the photos, the spa, and the tax-free shops. It hides in 1,000 tiny charges that add up to a fortune. Just as Carnival proved, the onboard wallet is the whole business. So here is the one lesson to remember from all of this. The most valuable thing on the ship is not the voyage at all. It is the captive guest who cannot leave the floating store. A week at sea is a week with nowhere else to spend a dollar. That captivity is the quiet engine behind every cruise fortune. Because you do not win this game by selling the cheapest ticket. You win by owning every dollar the guest spends once aboard. The voyage is the easy part. The onboard spending is the whole game. The ocean is just the stage, and your wallet is the real show. So can a cruise ship work? Yes, but only under one condition. Only if you follow the money past the fare into the onboard spending. Only if you fill every cabin and survive the storms that empty them. Only if you can carry the mountain of debt through the lean years. Do that, and a floating city can quietly become a money machine. Get it wrong, and that same city becomes a sinking pit of debt. If this breakdown showed you the machine the dream never did, subscribe. Next time we break down the economics of owning an airline, a business that famously makes more from loyalty points than from seats. The doors are open. Now you know where the money really hides.